Hearts were broken the other night in Chester. New York Red Bulls knocked out of the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals by what has become a major nemesis, the Philadelphia Union. Dave, appreciate you coming on. Give me a couple minutes. I know it's just been a couple of days from that result. You and I spoke on Tuesday going into the Wednesday game, and I made a point of saying the depth in the roster for the Union, a big part of this, especially offensively moving forward. And I don't know that it could have gotten any better for Bradley Carnell when you look at the three guys that scored.
No doubt. Congratulations to one of our new players, Milan Iloski, getting his first Union goal. And how about Owetu Makanya at the death, right, in regulation to score and to lift the Union into the semifinal. I thought, Matt, it was a really well played, entertaining, physical game from both sides. You guys scored first with an outside shot, which was very, very good. And then I thought that the lines were so tight. What I mean is, like, sometimes I was looking down from the booth, from back to front, it was like maybe only 25, 35 yards. And that's how small the margins are for teams to try to cash in on one another, because I thought it was a battle of like second and third balls. There was, really no semblance of possession for either side early in the match. I know that changed as the game went on. And I would say, for the Union standpoint, obviously, from my hat, elated for the club to get to another semifinal. I think the Red Bulls have, as you know better than I do, have played such a tough, rigorous schedule with Leagues Cup, and you have a really, really tough end of your regular season. So hopefully for you guys, you can turn things around, and hopefully for the Union standpoint, we're unbeaten in the last 5 MLS games, 2 points ahead of Cincinnati. So you guys are great at home. 9 of your 10 wins are at home. And for us, we're 1-2-1 in our last 4 on the road. So it's a really big matchup, another rivalry game between us.
Dave, from a standpoint of what you would guess, and not asking you to do any of it on here with this Zoom, from a roster rotation standpoint, the Union went first choice right from the beginning of the game, in essence, on Wednesday. You'd have to think this would be a game that maybe we see a couple of different players in from the Philly side.
You mentioned the depth, and I think that is aided to the Union's advantage from last year to this year. One of the reasons why we're in first, and those guys off the bench, whether it's an Ua, Olaski, late in the game, Kevin Sullivan was a young kid with his career first coming in. I expect that maybe a couple positions could rotate. I'm really not sure. It's really interesting for the club. It says a lot about how this team is together in the Union. I say that a lot to our fan base before broadcasts, and that the guys are all in, coming off of, in MLS, the 1-1 draw and allowing a late goal. And then we beat the Red Bulls 3-2 on Wednesday night. And I expect maybe a couple rotation because of the busy stretch of games. But I still say now, for the Union, 8 league games left, and then you throw in the Open Cup semifinal later in September. It's one that you still want to grab. You want to try to go in there and win 3 points. Yeah, a draw would be great. Of course, on the road against any MLS team, because we respect the opponent no matter where they are in the table. But I think if you talk to our players and our staff, they tell you that, it's one that, coming from the Toronto game and then obviously the thrilling ending to Wednesday, it's one that they want to grab 3 points before what I also believe, and they're not looking ahead, but of course, as a broadcaster, I am, the Chicago game at home. And then you have 2 pivotal matchups at Cincinnati and at Vancouver for the Union. I think is going to tell a lot of the story as we morph into decision day later in October.
Dave, finish with this one if you can. And again, always appreciate you giving time. From the Union side of it, you said the 8 games left, and that's kind of where most teams are, 8, 9 games left in the regular season. Has the conversation started with the Union from a perspective of, are they saying we want to win the Supporter Shield?
You talk to the staff, I think they tell you absolutely they want to grab that 1 seed. Union fans could say you have 3 opportunities here to do really something big, to win the Shield. You're making a run of the Open Cup to lift that trophy and get a CCC spot for next year, or to make a playoff run and hopefully for our standpoint, to lead to an MLS Cup run again, like we saw in 22. The Shield is there for this team. I think objectively, even taking off my Union hat, you see the table. I know Miami's got a couple games in hand over us, Cincinnati, Nashville, Columbus. I think though the margin for error is really thin right now, not just for the Union, but the other teams that I just mentioned. The Shield is there. You guys have done it in the past. We've done it in the past back in 2020, albeit that was the shortened COVID season, but still, a trophy for us in the case. And we're looking to do it here under Bradley and his staff, who I thought have done a terrific job bringing this team together with a new coach, new formation, new system, but the belief. And I still sense, Matt, that the chip is on a lot of these players' shoulders that have been here from what went down last year and even into 23 as well, to turn that page, and they rightfully are doing it. But they'll tell you probably they don't see themselves in first. They see themselves maybe a little bit lower because there's still that vigor, that tenacity to hold on to that top spot. In the Shield right now, top team there. Obviously, of course, in the East as a result. We'll see how things go down on Saturday. It's another rivalry game. I think I looked, we're unbeaten. A couple of people have different things. I think in the last 15 against the Red Bulls across all competitions. But I said to you the other day, and I'll say it again, I think knowing the staff and the players like I do, they throw those data points out the window in that history and say it's another game when the whistle sounds. The Red Bulls are going to go after it at home, and so are the Union on the road. So I look for a great matchup between the two. And hopefully you and I have some thrilling calls over the weekend.
Dave, appreciate your time, buddy. See you in another day.
Yep. Thank you so much.